Have you ever seen a strange door out in the wild? These portals for our imagination are sometimes installed by well-intentioned people, but do you ever think about their impact? I do. Let's talk about fairy doors. My name is Isaias Hernandez, and this is Queer Brown Vegan. My platform is to bring you environmental education that's focusing on intersectional issues rather than ignoring them. If you like what you see here, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe because it helps grow my channel and bring you more educational content. Fairy doors. The good, the bad, and the magical. This trend is kind of like the elf on the shelf and dates back to an ancient folklore of fairies. These mystical and sometimes mischievous creatures from natural environments use fairy doors to travel between worlds. The trend itself involves people putting small makeshift doors in unexpected places like storefronts, walls, or trees. That's part of the problem, and yes, this is a real problem. Places like the city of Guelph in Ontario, Canada, had to ask people to stop drilling into trees after fairy doors popped up in their city. Let's talk about what you should know before putting up a fairy door and how to do that responsibly. First of all, we know fairy doors can be appealing aesthetically. They open up our imagination and add beauty and wonder to the unexpected places. But this is still a trend, and the commercialization of fairy doors has some problems. Don't just do this if you want a photo opportunity. There are plenty of photos online you can use. You could also look up and see if there are already fairy doors where you live. Our economy constantly pushes us to buy without thinking things through. You don't have to give in to that. Yes, they present a magical opportunity, but we can also find magic in pretty much everything else. What fairy doors teach us is that it's okay to nail random things wherever we'd like. Second, a lot of these doors are mass-made products, which means their materials could be toxic. Some are even made of plastic, and as I said before, sometimes people put them into trees as well. When trees are drilled into, it makes them more susceptible to diseases and death, which is not what fairies would want. These are all local environmental impacts that you could prevent by simply not putting a door up, or definitely not putting them into trees. Putting them into something like a treehouse, an old door, or the wall of a building are all better options. Also, definitely don't get a plastic one. Avoid nails, screws, and plastics if you're picking a fairy door. Now, for the culture around them, some people don't want fairy folklore trivialized or turned into a trend. There is a certain respect and reverence towards mysticism that doesn't mesh well with capitalism. Keeping magical things as magical as we can is important. This can mean leaving natural areas in their current state and not making significant change for the sake of aesthetics alone without considering the localized impact. For people that are trying to look into fairy doors, one really great example I saw is that there is this TikTok video of an individual that made a fairy door tree out of leaves, twigs, and other materials that were found in forests. And I think this is a really good opportunity to teach kids and also to teach yourselves as the ways to understand that our own tools and what we need to make magic exists within nature. And that is the most powerful thing. It's not a beautiful pink, purple, mushrooms themed door. It's more about the ways that you use your creative imagination to build that altered dimension for you. And I think one of the examples I saw actually was last summer when I lived in New Jersey. I went foraging and I remember stumbling upon a fairy door, and there was also little miniature fairy homes that are on there in this image that I've seen before. And I remember just thinking like, wow, this is so cute and this is so awesome, but I also just can't stop thinking about, is it really well to leave these things here? And I think that there's a very respective rule around land sovereignty and respecting land and also respecting the fairies that live there, is that we need to be able to really understand that our impact does matter. And I think that it's really great to see them, but I also fear for a lot of trees that have already been susceptible to disease, of how that can also lead them to corrosion. And as you know, that we're already losing so many trees. So for me, honoring fairy doors and calling upon fairies doesn't need to look extravagant. It needs to look magical and extravagant based on your mindset of how you can imagine things. What do you think about fairy doors now? I hope you enjoyed, and be sure to like the video, leave a comment with something you learned or topics you'd like for me to explore, and subscribe to the channel if you like what you saw. Would you ever build a fairy door?